Welcome everyone to our class on Iyun Gemara. We started on Har Sinai with the Chumash, and we've worked our way down to through the Rishonim, and now we're in the Tur Shulchan Aruch. We mentioned he was the son of the Rosh, and we are in the not only in the Tur, but of course the commentaries on the Tur, and those commentaries are going to now move us also into the next level, which is the Shulchan Aruch itself. So, just to remind ourselves quickly here, we had four different Rishonim who spoke about the relationship when paying for damages between Meitav Haaretz, Kesef, and Shaveh Kesef. So it seems that the Rif, the Rashi, the Riv, and the Rush are all in one line to put Meitav, Kesef, and Yashiv all as equal alternatives, and they're holding like Rav Papa. Of course, we don't know. I mean, the Rashi didn't make a clear statement of what the halach is, but in the Mishnah he explains the Mishnah according to the simple meaning of Rav Papa. And of course the Rif, whose aim is to bring down the conclusion of the Gemara, he clearly states halachas Rav Papa because they're basroi against Rav Huna. So we said not only is Rav Papa arguing Rav Huna, but the halachas like him, says the Rif, and the Rush supports the Rif and brings proof from the Gemara of Rav Kahana. On the other side of the chart here, we have Benu Tam, who writes in Sefer Yashar that halacha is like Rav Huna. So Nezikin, Meitav, and Kesef are lechatchila the equal alternatives. If you have Meitav or Kesef, you can't give Subin, and only if you don't have Meitav or Kesef can you give Subin. I get metaltalin and even Subin, I should say, to be more exact. The Rambam is, we're going to look at it again just to remind ourselves, but the Rambam actually, we looked at him, doesn't say the about Kesef. We'll look at that again, where that exists. He talks about the relationship, however, between Yashav and Meitav, and he says that when the Beis Din collects, it has to collect from a Taltalin before it collects from Karka, from Meitav Haaretz. And then we had the Ramah that was brought in Beit Yosef. I did research, it is in Beit Yosef, it's not the Ran. The Beit Yosef wants to make yet another variation, which is that Kesef is the main way that you pay back damages, and if you don't have Kesef, only then can you use metaltalin, and if you don't have Kesef and metaltalin, then you can use Meitav. So the halacha is going to move toward the Rambam, and we're going to have to investigate who he is like. The Ramah is, I brought in this, the Beit Yosef is really holding like Rav Papa. And remember, there was a beautiful svara in the Ramah with a Hay, who's a Rishon, that since already Rav Papa is talking about things which are close to Kesef, are a more preferable way to pay back the Nizak, right? Because the whole idea, why was metaltalin better than Meitav Karka? Because if you couldn't sell it here, you could sell it somewhere else. So the most important thing was selling it, not keeping it, and therefore translating it into cash was the most important thing. So if that's made metaltalin better than Karka, which is what Rav Papa said, it has that quality. So he says Kesef, which is the real thing, so to speak, should definitely be the first preference, then metaltalin, and then the last preference should be Karka. Okay, so even though the Gemara said that Karka has the quality of desirability, the Ramah will hold its it just makes it acceptable, but does not make it equal to metaltalin. Okay, so this Ramah was linked to Rav Papa. So we are following this discussion, and we had Rav Papa and Rav Huna here, and we had the Rif and the Rush on the side of Rav Papa, and the Ran now, according to the Ran, is going to really also be with Rav Papa. The Rambam we haven't discussed yet, who he's like, and the people who are going to talk about that will be the people who comment on the tour. The tour looks as if he's quoting the Rambam. He usually brings his father and all the Forshim. And the Rambam is definitely new. He looks like he's quoting the Rambam here. So we started to investigate the Beit Yosef, who later goes on to write the Shulchan Aruch, what he has to say about the tour, and then we'll look at the other people, the Bach and the Trisha and the Lavush, and see what they have to say. So without any further ado, let's go into the text itself. Okay, just as a review to get ourselves fresh, the Rambam in Mishnah Torah says the following: Keshebeistin niskachilos hanezek minichnasei hamazik. When the Beis Din is obliged to collect damages from the property of the mazik, govin min hamataltlin b'chila. The law is that they collect from the metaltalin first. Im lo hayu lo metaltalin klal. If the mazik doesn't have any metaltalin, o shelo hayu metaltalin keneged kol hanezek, or he doesn't have enough metaltalin to pay for all the damages, then we're govin hashar min hakarka min hayafi shibe nechsei hamazik. So then we go and collect the rest from the land, and of course the best of the land. And then he concludes, "V'kolzman she'ematz metaltalin." Every time you find metaltalin, afilu subin, even the worst type of metaltalin brand, ain iskak in la karka. So they don't take the karka. Okay, so last week we were talking about, is that a preferential treatment to the mazik? And I was thinking about it, and maybe this Rambam is only trying to tell us that we shouldn't read the pasuk in the Torah which says Meitiv sort of Meitiv Yishalem, to give a preference to Meitav. And that was the Havamin. In other words, the unstated problem that the Rambam is talking about is the pasuk of Meitav Haaretz. So you would think, since the pasuk says that you should give Meitav Haaretz, that should be the Meitavin Midiachrin Alo, and he says no, it actually does not work out that way. And it turns out that you go to the metaltalin before the Meitav. Okay, so now the question is, who is this Rambam? That's the question. We've been learning up to this point, and we've been learning, according to the Rush, that Subin, Meitav, and Kesav are all equal alternatives. And we've learned that, according to Rav Huna, the metaltalin is the last alternative after Kesav and Meitav. So the Rambam has now placed Meitav after Subin, and also, we don't know about Kesav actually. That's an open thing. I put it here equally because some people do say it's the same. It doesn't have to be from the text that we just read. But the question is, where did he get this from to make Subin last? So we read the Ramah even puts Kesav first, and the reason is because he holds like Rav Papa. But let's see what the Meforshim here say. Okay, so the first one is to read the Torah himself. The Torah says, "Keshabayim lahagvot lenizak nisko." When you're coming to collect for the nizak, his damage. Sounds a little like the beginning of the Rambam, Kesha based in Yiskak Ligvos and Nezik Minikasei Amazik. So then what do? Im yesh l'mazik metatlin, ein Yordan l'nechsav, limkor kakasav. If the mazik does have metaltalin, then we don't take the karka away. Elayiten lo metaltalin, but we give the nizak metaltalin. But filu sheyesh lo kesev, yechol l'shalmo b'subin. So here the Tur clearly says that kesev and subin are equal. We didn't know what was the pshat in the Rambam. It's not clear what the Rambam holds, because he doesn't talk about kesev. It's another one of these inferences that we have to figure out what the din is. But the Tur is very explicit here, correct? The Tur says if he has kesev, he does not have any preference. He gives kesev or subin. That's why it's written here, kesev or subin. Let me get my little pointer. Okay. There's kesem and subin. That's what the Tur says. So if you have kesef or subin, you can give either one, and only if you don't have, then we go for meitav. So let's just read that inside. Im yesh lamazik metatlin, ein yordan l'nechsav limkors karkasav. We don't go down and sell his karka. Ella yiten metatlin, but we give the nizak metaltalin. V'filu sheyesh lo kesev yochel l'shalmo b'subin. And even if the mazik has kesev, he says it clearly, he's able to pay off this debt that he has to the nizak with subin. Why? The metaltalin meitavhu. Because the pasuk says meitav, and according to Reb Papa, it seems clearly this is Reb Papa, kol milei meitavhu. So there is no distinction when it comes to metaltalin. You don't have to give the best of it. You can give anything. Then he gets into a practical thing which the Rambam did not write about here, maybe in the next halacha. I don't think so. But v'shaman oso k'fi ma sheyochol limkoran miyad u'b'mekoman. What you do is you evaluate the base din now if he's going to pay in subin, let's say, so you have to evaluate it according to its price here and now, not what you might get in some other city, even if it's a higher price. Now, he says, ain lo metaltalin. Now, what happens if he doesn't have metaltalin, the second scenario? So then, Yordan l'karkasav, Yordan l'karka idit shebenechasav. You go down to his karka, the best of his property. V'filu im zibris shel amazik hova ke'idus shel nizak, and even if the zibris of this mazik is equal to the best that the nizak has, eino mekabla mimeno. The nizak does not have to accept it. El tzarich liten lo mi'idas shebekarka sav. So we said that was the next problem. Gemara, which, that was the argument between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel said, no, you just can use the mazik's best only equal to what the nizak's best is. And Rabbi Akiva disagreed, and the halacha is Rabbi Akiva against Chavaro against Rabbi Shmuel, and the halacha is coming down here that way, obviously. Also, that if the mazik has double A idis, and the single A is equal to the best that the nizak has, he has to give him double A idis. He has to give the best of what he has. V'im yesh lo, and here's another addition. V'im yesh lo shnei idis. What happens if the mazik has two pieces of good land? Ein hanizak yoko lomar ten li meidis ploni. Ella talui beratzon hamazik li mashirza. If the mazik has two pieces of equally good land, one in the north, one in the south, one is close to the nizak, one is further, the nizak has no power. The mazik can decide which idis he can give him. As long as he's giving idis, then he can decide. Aval, kesha mazik chofetz gam ken li ten lo idis, shebikesh. Now, what happens if the mazik wants to give the, let's say the southern one is closer to the nizak, and that's the one the nizak wants, and the mazik agrees. I'm going to give you the one in the southernmost part, the one that you like. Ella shehi ata bezo. Now it happens to be that it's a winter, we talk about like a baya. Umamtin ad shitityaker. So the mazik says, you know something, I'm going to give you the piece that you want, but right now it's cheap, it's the winter, so why don't you just wait until the spring when prices go up. This way I'm going to gain by giving you a smaller piece. The Omer im tirtza ata kachnu kafi ma jatida litayer, and he says to the nizak, if you want, then you just take this piece, according to the further price. Ein shomen lo. We don't listen to this mazik. V'tzarik liten lo kafi ma shehi shava ata. He has to give the present price. So if he damaged someone in the winter, he's paying back in the winter, and the nizak wants a southernmost price, southernmost piece, let's say, and he says, okay, I'm willing to give it to you, but wait until the summer and I'll give you less of it. We don't listen to him. If he agrees to give this southernmost part, he has to give the cheap price of the winter price. So that's the tour. We see that the tour not only brings our din in Meitav, but explains really the whole sugya that we've been talking, the Machlokas Rebbe Kiva Rebbe Shmuel, and also this problem with the buyer about waiting, the price will go up, so you're not going to take it, we don't listen and wait till higher prices, okay, because we don't like a buyer, we rejected him, so he has to pay in the here and now. So that's the halacha of the Torah and the amplification of the Torah. What we're interested in, or what we're focusing on, is the relationship between these three variables: Kesef, Shava Kesef, Afil Subin, and Meitav. And the Torah's opinion is that Kesef is equal to Subin. The mazik can decide which one he gives if he has equally, if he can either give Kesef or Subin, and only when he doesn't have it, that Kesef or Subin, can he, or does he have to give Meitav. So, what the commentaries say here on the tour. So the first one we were investigating last week was the Beit Yosef, who is Yosef Cairo, who writes, of course, an extensive commentary on the Rambam, and then he writes on the tour, and then he writes his Shulchan Aruch. Okay, and again we said that the tour was like 100 years before the Beit Yosef, and that was the accepted Shulchan Aruch. But here, although he's very clear about the Pesach, in other places he brings down various Rishonim and does not give a definitive decision. So the Beit Yosef is trying to streamline the process and make sure that we come down to a definitive Pesach. Okay? That's what he's going to do on his Shulchan Aruch. But first what he does is comment on the tour, which everybody accepted as the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, let's read the Beit Yosef again. I'm just going to get up to where we left off. That's why I'm doing this again, long, just to get ourselves warmed up and get involved. The Beit Yosef says the following. He says, everybody, in the standard practice, you always quote exactly what you want to talk about, and that's what he does. Keshabayin lahagvot lenizak nisko rowan. When we come to collect for the nizak, his damage that is owed, we see yesh lamazik metaltalin ein yodin lenichsav limkor karkasav. If he has metaltalin, we don't go to his meitav karka. Eli ten metaltalin. So now, the Beit Yosef says, Kain katava rush prepare kama de baba kama le'inyan prius bal chov. Now the Rush spoke about this after our piece, by the way, about Nezek, he spoke about paying back a debt to someone who you owe money to. You borrowed money this time, you're paying it back. There, the Rush gave a precedent of metaltalin over karka. Let's read what he had to say. He said, quote, Ule'inyan priyas balchov, nearly, when it comes to paying back a debt, it appears to me, says the Rush, islay lelova metaltalin umikarkae, if the lova has both metaltalin and land, kafinin leila mesip le metaltalin. There we force him to give metaltalin. He has to give metaltalin first before land. Im chofetz behem hamalva yotem yibakarvav. If indeed the malva wants the metaltalin more than he wants the land, so then here the lova cannot has no say in it. The malva now can decide, and he can say, look, I want the metaltalin first. Why? And he gives a svara, the Rush. Kevin de zuze yahiv shakol kol midei de makrev lezuze tvei. Since the malva gave the lova money, he has a right to demand that which is closer to money. What's closer to money? Land and metaltalin. Behind the metaltalin. Metaltalin is closer to the money. Why? Di lo misdaben bahai masa misdaben masa chrisa. Our famous svara from Reb Pop, that if land can't be, metaltalin can't be sold here, then you go down the street and you'll sell it. So that makes it closer to money. So since it's closer to money, and the malva gave money to the lova, he has a right to demand the metaltalin. Now, that was in the case of lova. So the Beit Yosef explains, V'dima Rabbeinu is the Torah. Dima and the Torah made a comparison of Priyas Nezikin LePriyas Balchov. Paying for Nezikin, he said, was like paying for Balchov. That was the work of the Torah. The Torah doesn't tell us the source. Again, when you're trying to write definitive halachas, so this is the problem that the Rambam also had. If you're going to write all the sources again, you're going to get people all involved and confused. So if you're trying to make a streamline of, okay, what does the rabbi do? So then you have to just say the final halacha. The Rambam also had a big problem with that, and a lot of people fought him because without the source, then we don't know if what you're saying is accurate or not. So, but again, you have this decision to make whether you're going to make a user-friendly, simplistic summation of the halacha versus a more complicated work, which is going to be much heavier and much more full, quoting all your sources and showing your proofs. So this is the give and take of one. So the Torah also writes a Shulchan Aruch here, and he doesn't tell us the sources, just tells us what's the law. So the Beit Yosef here is trying to put the halacha that we learned from Shas into the Torah, and understand where he got it from. So he says that the Beit Yosef says that we know that the Rush definitely said that when it comes to paying a debt, the creditor has a right to take metaltalin over karka, because that's more closer to money. And since he gave money, he has a right to get money back. So the Beit Yosef says that's my only source to say that money is greater than land. That's the only source I have in the Rush. So maybe what happened was the Torah applied the svara of lova to the svara of Nezikin also. Because remember, we were reading the Rush, the father of the Torah, and we understood that there were equal alternatives kesef and karka, as long as it's meitav, kesef, karka, metaltalin, or metaltalin. I'm sorry, it should be more exact. Metaltalin and meitav are equal, but the Tur went the way of the Rambam and put metaltalin before meitav. The job of the Beit Yosef was to figure out why, and he goes to, interesting enough, not the Rambam, but he goes to the Rosh's father, and he says, well, the Rosh's father did make a precedent of metaltalin over meitav when it came to the creditor, so maybe this is why his son, the Tur, made that application to Nezikin. Now, of course, there's a problem with that extension, and the Beit Yosef is going to Marama's hint to that by saying the following. Okay, so he said like this: V'dima Rabbeinu priyaskin lepriyas balchov. Now, the Tur made a comparison between that which we know exists in balchov and moved it over to Nezikin, and here's the problem. Even though there's a simple difference that we could make between the two cases. The Rush only gave a precedent of metaltalin over meitav in the case of balchov. Why? Mishum dekevin de zuzi, he has a right. Since the creditor gave money, he has a right to get money back. Of Album and Nezik and Leka high time. In Nezik, the Nizak didn't give any money. He just lost property. So what right does he have to take money over metaltalin? He lost metaltalin. After all, he didn't lose money. So the Beit Yosef defends the Tur by saying, Lo mashma l'Rabbeinu. This chilek, which is a difference that we could make, that the idea of metaltalin getting a precedent over meitav is more shaykh to loans. It did not seem to be an important distinction in the Rush's eyes, in the Tur's eyes, I'm sorry. Why? The came in the low shkachan the pligi rabbanan benayhu bahachilo mafliginan. Since we don't see in the Gemara anyone made a split between balchov and nezik in this particular point, meaning the preference of metaltalin over meitav, so then we should say that the two things are equated. In other words, that Nezikin is equal to what we see. Nezikin is equal to what we see over there in Balchov. Okay, so now that's what we did. That piece is what we did last time we met. There's some very, very, of course, interesting things that we have to discuss. But basically here, we see that the Beit Yosef is saying that the Tur made a comparison between Balchov and Nezikin, and since we see that Balchov is a precedent of metaltalin over meitav, so too the same thing should hold on Nezikin. The same difference for it. But you didn't give money, did you? The Nizak, you just lost metaltalin. So how could you make it? Well, we don't see anyone arguing at this point. So last week we spoke about an interesting svara, which was that the svara could be that when you damage someone's property, are you taking metaltalin from him or are you taking kesef from him? In other words, how does the Torah look at it, at what you destroyed? Did you destroy a cow? Did you destroy a car? Did you destroy a field? Or simply did you destroy money? You just took his money away. So if the svara is that you don't look at the object in the terms of the object, we're not giving you the object back. The Torah does not say that you owe this person the object back. Adrabah, we see in Mishnayos later on, we'll see that you have to go to the Beis Din, and the Beis Din does an evaluation of the damage, and you can't give, just make a deal of, well, I damaged, let's say two oxen was fighting, and one damaged the other one damaged the other one. You can't just say, well, you take my ox, I'll take your ox, and call it quits. the Beis Din has to convert the damage into money. So if that's the svara, if the svara is the Torah looks at damage as taking money away from the other party, so then we could say there is a comparison between Baal Chov and Nezikin, because just the question of you didn't take the ox away, you just destroyed his money. So you have to, since you took money from him, so you have to replace the money, just like in Baal Chov. So that's what we said to make this move of the comparison between Baal Chov and Nezikin more palatable in light of the difference between the two, especially with the Rosh. Okay, so Vaita, now I'm going to put you on the floor after all these updates, just to get our minds into things, and let's just see, let's go through the rest of the Beit Yosef, okay? ומה שכתוב, כן.
מה שכתוב, אפילו שיש לו כסף, יכול לשאול בו בסובין, לכל מילה דמטלטל מיטב הוא, and where it says that even if he has money, he can still pay him with bran, because anything that is movable is tantamount to meitav. Meimer Rav Papa, Rav Huna Bered, Rav Shua, that's the source for that is basically Rav Papa. Goes all the way. Doesn't even have an intermediate source. It's straight from the Gemara.
Right. But so it's interesting when it comes to the idea of giving the filusubin, right? Now, even if you have money, so there he's taking it from Rav Papa. Right? What's the connection?
I guess he probably is doing this to qualify the last statement, because after all, if so far it comes out that money, based on the model of Baal Chov, so Baal Chov is kind of like the generic model that's going to apply to everything. So you might think that we should, under all circumstances, give kesef, but then he brings in Rav Papa, which is the original source anyway, to say, by the way, there's no obligation to give kesef if you have subin.
Right. Very,
so
very
subin is really the bottom.
Very interesting. It's an equation. And it's also an equation between the two. Now, that was one of our problems with Rav Papa, by the way, right? Because Rav Papa did not talk about kesef.
Yeah.
And we saw that the Ramah wants to push kesef even ahead of metaltalin, right? That was the Ramah with the hay. Okay, because he took the svara of, well, if you give metaltalin, if metaltalin is better than karka because it can be converted more easily, so then kesef, which is a thing that doesn't need any conversion, certainly should be more preferable. That the Torah does not accept, right? And he says that there's an equation between kesef and metaltalin, and the only thing that drops down a level is the karka. Okay, but the equation part of kesef equal to metaltalin comes from Rav Papa. The drop down, says the Beit Yosef, is not coming from this pasuk. Why don't we, he could have said it in pure svara also, that when the Torah said, when Papa said, everything that's closer to kesef is better, so he said chutz mikarka, so karka could have dropped down, and even though it has a plus, which was that's desirable because it's meitav, it still never equals to it. So the Torah does not say in svara what the Ramah says, and he says no, that the metaltalin stays at the level of the kesef, and the karka goes down one level. But he doesn't say. So let me say that again. The karka definitely will drop one level, and that he gets really from his comparison to Baal Chov. But the fact that kesef and subin are equal, so that he doesn't make a distinction and say, well, kesef should be greater like the Ramah does. Okay, so let's go now to his next thing. Now we're going to get to the other halachos, which are not exactly in our investigation, but it's for completeness we should read it. Okay, so let's read number 3.
and regarding what it says that the shamin,
Evaluate. Evaluate.
So they evaluate according to what he can sell right now and right here.
Mm-hmm.
Zelashon HaRosh, this is what the Rosh says at Locus. V'chad Yahiv Le Mitartale. What's v'chad?
I think that could, maybe that's kedi yehivle. I think that's when. I don't know why I have a space there. I have to look in the original text. Ukedi yehivle metaltalin. When he does give metaltalin.
Af al gav de amriran kol mila meitav hu vafilu sudin. Even though we say that everything is considered meitav of metaltalin, including sudin, yesh l'sum or l'shum kol ma shenosen lo b'shomea shoma sheyuchal hamalav l'machro miyad be'oisa shomea.
Shuma. Let's read that again. Afal gav damrin and kol mile meitavu vafilu subin yesh l'shum. I believe that's l'shum to evaluate kol ma shenosen lo, anything that we're going to end up giving. B'shuma sheyochol hamalva limkor miyad ba'osomachro. With an evaluation that the malva could sell immediately in this place. That's the solution of the Rosh. Afilu b'beiso, right? Even in his house. I mean, in other words, what you can get really immediately. Even though we said, well, you can, the Nizak, if he doesn't sell it here, could sell it somewhere else, right? So it looks like, well, why don't we evaluate it where he can get the best price? We say no. Evaluation has to be done here and now, says the Rosh, right? Go ahead. V'lo yitztarech.
V'lo yitztarech lechazer be'iros uvashukin kedei l'macher, and he doesn't have to go to return or to go out into the city or to the shuk in order to sell it. De'im lo kan na'alet de'leis b'fnei lovin.
Very interesting.
Because if not here, what's na'alet the law?
Okay, this is a phrase that we are going to close the door in the face of the borrowers. Again, the Rosh talking about delit. If we, and this is again in loans, you see, in loans, if we say that the creditor has to go, the debtor, all he has is subin, right? So if we tell the creditor, something, now he gave you 10, bales of subin, you have to get the best price, and the best price is over there in, 20 miles away in this other town. So if we do that, what's going to happen is that people will never loan money anymore. We'll be closing the door in the face of loans, because the guy says, it's bad enough I loan him the money, now I'm going to have to go traipsing around all over the world to get my money back. So that's very interesting. The Rosh is talking about in the case of loans again, and we're going to apply this principle over to Nezikin, but that's what he says. Okay. So let's read it again. Okay. V'lo yitztarech lagzor. Go ahead.
He doesn't have to return to He doesn't have to return to the cities or to the marketplaces in order to sell it, because we don't close the door in the face of the creditor. She'eno patuach pasuach shebeveiso. She'iten lo.
No, I think it means that we don't close the door in the face of the borrower.
The borrower? Why?
Yeah, because if it turns out that the creditor knows that he'll have to run around, then he's going to slam the door in the face of the borrower.
I see. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Dim lo kein stel pnei lovin. Shiten lo.
He should give him the least amount, or does that mean?
Yeah, the worst items in his house.
the worst items in his house.
Im ein lo maus.
In Lamos, see if he doesn't have money. Hamalav lo yachol l'malchol le'alter.
Ad kan lashem.
Ad kan lashem.
In other words, right? So,
Yeah.
dim lo no. Okay. So we're going to shut the door. If we don't help this malva out by saying, look, whatever you just got from the loafer, we're going to evaluate right here and now and not have you traipse all around to get a better price. So if we don't do that, so then he's going to he's going to give him, the malva's going to give him the worst stuff in his house, if he doesn't have money, of course, and then the malva will have to, won't be able to sell immediately. He'll have to run all over the place, so he'll take advantage. Again, what's interesting over here, that was all a quote. Ad kan lashano is a quote of the Rush. What's interesting is over here is when we have two parties involved, there's always claims on each side that have to be weighed. Okay, and this is the delicate thing that the Torah is involved in. In one hand, we want people to loan the money. In the other hand, we want to make the loafer be able to pay back the money. And there's a push and pull here as far as how we're going to make this equitable. It's not an easy situation because we want to make sure that the poor people, if we're too hard on these poor people, then all the rich people will never give the money anymore. I mean, excuse me, Adarabba, if we're too hard on the creditor, right, by saying he has to run all the, for instance, so then what's going to happen is no one's going to give money because then they have to get their money back without a lot of tircha. So, but on the other hand, we can't make it so hard on the loafer who doesn't have anything to pay back his loans. So we do say, well, if you don't have money, you can give metaltalin, but we're going to evaluate it in the here and now. Because if we don't, then no one's going to give them loans anymore because they want their money back, and they don't want to start traipsing all over the world. Now, what does this have to do with us? So let's now read the Beit Yosef. Umashma l'Rabbeinu. Again, this is the quote. Now, that was the end of the quote of the Rush. Umashma gehed, Rabbeinu Satur.
Mashma Rabbeinu, the Hu Hadin, the Zikin. So he learns from this that this is the same rule that applies to damages. Even though there is a difference between the two cases, the in came,
yes.
The in came?
Yes. Or maybe dal korcho. Maybe means dal korcho. I'm sorry. That perforce. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, right. Perforce. Yeah. The Rosh was only speaking about the Baal Chov. Mishum the lo tanu delis. Oh, so that he was speaking about the Baal Chov, so that the door wouldn't be closed on the face of the borrower. Aval b'nezikin the lo shayach. High time. Well, we're talking about nezikin, about damages. What's the reasoning here? It's not really relevant. Lo mashma l'Rabbeinu, lo palug Rabbanan b'nei l'inyan zeh.
Says it again.
Rabbeinu, the Tur again did not worry about this, the applicability or the problem of applying the case of the Baal Chov to Zikin, because there was no argument derabanan. In other
words, we never saw an argument that they made such a distinction. Okay, right. But that's very, very, you see, this is all very interesting in the learning process. Again, we're not going to focus on this aspect of it, but again, the Beit Yosef is just wondering, where did the Torah get this? See? So again, he appeals to what the Rush said, because the Rush, right after he talks about Nezik, and he talks about Baal Chov, the Rush, just like if you remember, the Tosfos started this format. He talked about Nezik and Baal Chov, Mechtos, and finally a Poel. So the Rush is following in that format, and it first talks about Nezik, and then talks about the Baal Chov. But now the Beit Yosef is saying, the Rush imported what the Torah imported what the Rush said about Baal Chov into Nezikin. That's all. and he tries to give a reason, because we don't see that there's anyone that makes a distinction in this area. I guess no one spells out anything about the where and when you do the evaluation. Even though the Gemara does say there's an advantage that in general that metalton is better than karka, because if you don't sell it here, you sell it somewhere else. When it comes to the actual din, says the Tur, it has the same as Balchov. Even though, again, the reason why we're nice to the Malvin says you don't have to, go all the way around the world, was because if we're not, then no one's going to loan money. And that reason is not applicable over here to the Nizak. I mean, what does that have to do with the Nizak? We don't have to be, nice to the Mazik. But he says there's no difference. Okay. So that's what he says. Interesting stuff.
Is there a general idea, is there anywhere a general idea that the law of Baal Chov somehow is more, I don't know what to say, more comprehensive, or somehow sets the rule, it's a general rule, and then that the halacha of Nezikin would be not an application of that rule, but a
subset.
Qualification.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any idea like that, or is it just pure? It seems to be implied in what the Beit Yosef is saying.
I think it's a question of svara. You see, it's a question of how you understand the relationship of the two cases. There's obviously no. If there was a specific Gemara that said this, then the Beit Yosef would be very happy, and he would just bring it.
Yeah.
Okay. But he's saying that these two cases, the Torah is putting these two cases, Nezikin and Baal Chov, together. Now remember, they're all called, when we looked at the Rabbeinu Tam, these are all called pure yon. So there is a common quality in all this. This is not called a kinyan where you're acquiring something. This is a debt you're paying back. So the question is, as you said, what is the relationship between these two cases? Where are they different? Where are they the same? In Svara, because we don't have a Gemara that's going to spell it out, or else they brought it right away. So it's really a Svara, how each one interreacts with the other. And this is that's why I call this, by the way, I call it dynamics, but it's also reading in between the lines. You see, that's where the Torah Shabbat Pez comes in. You're supposed to understand that relationship. Okay, and the Gemara forces you into that, just like the Chumash itself forces you into what we call the filling in the blanks. That's what Torah Shabbat Peh is, filling in those blanks, and you're supposed to be able to get the point, you see. So here, that's what they're doing. They're trying to fill in the blanks over here. But as far as it's not a clear Gemara. It's the best thing is a clear Gemara. We don't have them, so he's trying to fill it in. And people will argue about what the connection, the relationship is. Yeah, what do you want to say?
It seems that the Beit Yosef, by saying, and he says it twice here, he said the bottom line for him is that there's no contradiction in the Gemara, and therefore the Tur is allowed to say that.
That's right.
By saying it in such a minimal way, in a way, he seems to be attributing a chiddush to the Tur.
Nice definitely.
Pointing that out.
100%. Definitely. This is a tremendous chiddush of the Tur. The Rush said it only in the Rush said we said with specific reasons in Baal Chov. And these reasons don't apply to Nezikin. I mean, simply. So it's definitely he's bringing up the difficulty and showing what the Torah, explaining what the Torah must have done in Svar and put them together. That's his work. That's one of the things that we're trying to do in investigating each one of these levels, is to see what is the problem they're confronting and how do they do it. How do they solve those problems? And this is the work here. The Torah says when we look at the sources, and here we're looking at the Rush, his father, we don't see what the Torah said. Well, we presume that he understands that. I mean, he's not. He also read his father, right? I mean, he's an educated, very educated person. So we have to understand. Well, what was his reasoning? So this is what the Beit Yosef came up with in two places. Although, as you said, it's Chiddush.
It's what I like about this kind of Chiddush is that, I mean, different things could qualify as Chidushim. If you give a nice explanation of something, you could say that's a nice Chiddush. But here, it's a Chiddush in a very strong sense, in that it's like an intuition. In other words, the Beit Yosef is saying, look, the Torah is not saying anything that contradicts anybody. But that's not saying, if you left it at that, that's not saying very much. He's saying that within this realm of the logically possible, the Torah has given us a positive judgment about what is the case, which comes out of nowhere, it seems, comes out of his own genius.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
It means that there's a relationship with the Torah that goes beyond deduction. Right? You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not if you just stuck to
yes.
If you took all the axioms that you got from Torah and then added the ones you got from Mishnah and the Baraisas, you could come up with a lot of nice deductions. But an induction, as they say, in logic is different from a deduction. You're introducing an element that's not there before, which is what the Torah seems to be doing. Yeah.
Yes,
nice.
That's beautiful. That's very well stated. Exactly. And this is why a lot of times when we were doing the Ramchal at the yeshiva, people were using it as a tool to discover the meaning of things, and they were looking at the physical words and trying to deduce everything from the physical words, and it just will not work. The words are indicators. The words are indicators to svaras. There's a certain place where the words are showing you where to go, but you have to get the point, and that point is really a logical, or you said intuitive, but it's a connection between two things, and that's what the real learning is about. It brings you to the place where you're supposed to make those connections, but it doesn't spell out that connection in every place, and that's the beauty of it, and that's where, of course, machlokas were. And we said before, there was a place actually in Jewish history where all the chachamim were able to chop that point, to go from what was said to what was implied simultaneously. That's why we said in the Septuagint there, right? The 70 chachamim were put in different rooms. Not only did they translate everything correctly, but they did they made the same mistranslations, because they knew the reader, being not Jewish, would misinterpret what's being said and come out with a wrong idea. And they all did it the same way, which is remarkable. But okay, this is a level, as we brought also with Rashi. There was a level at that point where that intuitive jump was done by everyone understood that jump from the physical text to the svara. But okay, but now we lost it, and people still have to do it, so they're doing it. But it has to be there. It's, as I said, you will never get everything spelled out. It's impossible, because first of all, it's redundant, right? It's redundant to do. You're supposed to be able to go from what the text to the svara. That's the work. You're supposed to understand that. To spell that out would really be redundant to a person that knows what's going on, of course. But okay, it's hit katnas adaras. Okay, then it becomes a question of, well, wow, where that connection now becomes fuzzier, and we can put the two things together in different ways. But okay, but that's the job. We're still in the same position. We just maybe don't have the same abilities, but we have to still do it, because it says in the Torah that you have to go to the chachamim of your age. I had a beautiful discussion with my son and other people at the Shabbos table. The tremendous advance in technology has made an equivalent advance in halacha. You see, the halacha is keeping up with it. Everything from a chicken used to take 2 years to grow. Now they do it in 2 weeks through genetic engineering. Now, what does that have to do with halacha? Well, it has to do with halacha because there's a rule that chickens don't have trephus in their legs in the giddim. So it's a giddim. That's what it says. It brought down the halacha. But here, since they need to stand in the lul, and they're weaker because they're being grown quicker, their giddim do start getting destroyed. So you have to check them. Now, it doesn't say anywhere you have to check it. So, what's big discussion of what is electricity? Is it bona? Is it fire? What is it? So all these things, or there's a statement in the Gemara that a cow cannot have a certain amount of teeth when it's born, but when they do this zippy genetic energy, all of a sudden they're producing cows with teeth in them. So there's an amazing world going on, as technology grows, but you have to understand the svaras, and then you have to put the svaras together with the reality. Is electricity fire and bona? What is it? Where is it? What's asa? What's mutter? And that you need the chacham of every age to do that activity. The Torah was not lo b'shamayim hi, ela b'levcha b'fricha. So the chachamim have to do that synthesis of the abstract law and the physical facts on the ground. That's also a based in. What is a based in? They never know the truth, right? People could be lying, and it could be false documents. But they have to put the two things together, which is the abstract law and the physical reality. That's the beauty of Torah. There's that synthesis. So, and that's the excitement of learning, because once you do these activities and you learn how it's done, then you're able to now produce it, B'ezras Hashem. But it's a very, very, very delicate process and a deep process, and it needs study. Rav Elashev, people spend all their time learning. It's not because they like to learn. It's because in order to be responsible, that's what you have to do. They asked him all sorts of questions. He said, well, who am I? Am I the Vilna Gaon? That's what he used to say about himself. Because they ask such difficult questions. Now, the Gemara says that bugs that are found inside the meat of a fish are not considered treif. So now they found that because the fish go out to it used to be fish would just eat the local fish next to the shore, and the fishermen would just catch fish next to the shore. But in order now to get more fish, they go deeper into the ocean. Well, the problem is the big fish eat the little fish, and the little fish have bugs inside them. And then these bugs go into they're like parasites that go into the fish. So they're not indigenous to the fish anymore. All these problems. And they found bugs that now they want to claim that are even on the outside that drill in when, if you catch the fish fresh, you would never have time to drill in from the outside in. But since there's this large gap between the ship out there in the ocean and finally coming back into the port, so the bugs which are outside are go crazy, and they have to eat, and they start drilling into the fish. So, these are all things that are the practical realities that a person who is really, really involved has to know how to make that synthesis between theory and reality, so to speak. That's the beauty of Torah, and the training ground is over here. You see, when you learn properly, you're always faced with that synthesis and that gap that must be filled. So you're trained how to fill gaps, and then also. Another interesting thing they said in my tape, very interesting. Rav Elashev, he would tell one person one thing and say just the opposite thing to another person. So one person would come out and say, yes, I have a Pesach of Rav Elashev. And the other person said, yes, I have a Pesach of Rav Elashev. But they didn't understand that factored into what he said was the person. If he was a poor person, then he had to be makel on him. If a person had money, then he would be machmer on him. Or if he was a chacham, then he should take a more stricter opinion than a person who's just a simple, a simple person. So there's, because the halacha has this span, and you also have to factor in the person who you're dealing with. So it's a very, very Torah is Remarkable. That's all I could say. It's a very remarkable thing. But anyway, I'm glad you said this idea of this jump, this intuition from text to svara, and it's a very, very vital thing. So here, the Beit Yosef sees what the Rush says and how it's applicable to Baal Chov, and he sees what the Torah says, and he says, well, where did the Torah get this from? So he must have made a connection between the two. My friend Aaron Marcus was here for a while. I mean, he's in computers. He says, yeah, the whole world is nodes and links. He loves that phrase. I mean, when you think about it, right, how you make connections in your head are really between comparisons and differences, and you're constantly connecting things and disconnecting them, and that's really what that's what it's about. So, but you have to be educated to do that when you're in Torah, because we're not just talking about ideas; we're talking about a responsibility of what Hashem says. And okay, so let's go right to number 4. Okay, let's start.
Okay.
Is this big enough for you, by the way? Yes.
Yeah, this is good, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So the im ein lo metaltalin yordin l'karka idis she be'nichnasot. So if, and where it says that if he does not have movables, then the judges go into his land and expropriate his best land. Mishnah Reish Perak Hanazikin. Oh, so that's straight out of Mishnah.
Yeah, but if you go there, that's what he said. But if you go there,
Gittin also, yeah.
It's in Gittin. Let's get in there. If you go there, I'm not going to get too involved, although we really should get involved here. But let's read it. This is the Gemara in Gittin. What does Gittin have to do in Ezekiel? Okay, it's a question. Let's read this here. What does it say here?
Hanazikin, that's interesting. This is from Gittin. Hanazikin shemin lehan be'idis ubalchov be'beinoinis uksuvas isha beziburis.
Stop.
So, yeah. So damages that, what does it mean, shemin?
Again, it's similar shuma. Okay. We evaluate them.
Okay, shamin. So the damages are evaluated according to the best. I guess it is karka here.
Right, Rashi. You want to read Rashi? Here's Rashi. Hanazikin shaman lehen.
Shaman lehen. Nezikin v'goyvin dmei nezikan.
You do an evaluation first.
And collections.
Let's just read Hanazikin shaman lehem. That means you have to first do in Nezikin. You first do an evaluation. Shamin lehen. That's a shuma. You do an evaluation, right? Hanazikin shaman lehen nizkan. You evaluate the damage in terms of money, right? You say, well, how much damage was actually done? And then govin demei nizkan. And then you collect the evaluation that you did for the damage. Bi'idis. You hear how that's written? In the Zikin, Shamlahan Nizkan, you do an evaluation of how much damage was actually done. V'govin the main Nizkan Bi'idis, you have to flow it into the next word. And you collect the money of the damage with Idis. Let's read Rashi, just interesting here.
שבנכסי המזיק שנוח לו לאדם לגבויס מועט what does that say? Mekarka?
Yes, Mekarka. Should I make it bigger for you? Let me make
so
it
no, that's okay. No, it's just it's okay. So okay. In the property. It's going to, there we go. Okay, so in the property of the damager, for whom it's easier for a person to pay a little bit of land, karka idis, a little bit of good land, the lolagavos harbe meziburis, rather than a lot of poor land.
Wow, this is to collect, by the way, not to give. He's, he says when it comes to Nezikin, right, you have to pay with the best of the land of the Mazik. Why? He says a svara here. Shenoach lo la'adam ligvos miut karka mi'idis v'lo ligvos harbe mizibris. He says it's easier for a person to collect a little bit of the best land and not a lot of the worst land. But look what he adds here. In other words, a guy really, again, if we're holding this idea that he really just wants his money, right? So the Nizak would rather just get a nice piece of land that he sell right away than all this cheap land. That's even though it's a wider piece of property, but it's going to be harder for him to sell. But then he adds, "V'kulhu mnei tikana olam." Now this is all because of what's called tikana olam. So now this Gemara, I didn't want to get.
Kabbalah into this.
I like
what
it.
does he mean by tikana olam? I mean, is this a Kabbalistic idea?
I like it. No, we're in the world of Peshat. There's a tikana olam in the world of Peshat. The tikana olam in the world of Peshat means that the world has to function. Okay, it doesn't mean it has nothing to do with the Kabbalistic term. I mean, there's an extension, but it just means that the world has to function. So since the world has to function, we give the Nizak has a right to get the best of the Mazik's land, because that makes life easy. That makes the world go easier, right? Function easier, because it's easier to sell a little piece of good land than a whole bunch of bad land. Now, this whole Gemara we never got into, because this is the Pshita of Reb Shimon we're going to see. Okay, Reb Shimon is in a different on a different plane than Rebbe Akiva. Okay. So he holds that this whole thing is the whole idea of giving Zibris is called Tikkun Olam. It's just because it's we'll have to see if Tikkun Olam is it doesn't mean it's a derisive din, it looks like. But we're going to have to investigate that. But anyway, this Gemara is a whole world that we really do have to look into. I mean, but we're not going to do it because, again, just because of time limitations. Okay, let's say over here. I'm just wondering if there's a. Oh, Tos was wondering why we're talking about Nezikin and Gittin. Okay. Anyway, this is a whole issue, but in this mission it says Nezikin is shaman lehem be'idis ubalchov be'beininis, and we give the balchov beininis. In other words, comes around, he's allowed to take beininis land, doesn't have to take zibris. Ukasivas isha bezibris, and the woman, when she collects kasuba, she collects from the worst. Okay, but Rabbi Meir says, Rabbi Meir Omer af kasuvas isha be'beininis. He says no, he disagrees. Even the woman gets beininis. It says here, it's another interesting din. We never collect from land that has a lien on it when there's free land to collect. The few hen zibbers. Okay, and the soul. Okay, so I'm not going to get involved in this Gemara. It's very interesting. The Gemara goes through really our Shakla Vataria, but here the whole machlokus between Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon has a whole different shita. But here the Rush, the Beit Yosef says that the precedent of metaltalin over karka is because of that mission over there. What's that mission? It is another wild shot. I thought we said. I mean, we've been looking at, according to the Ramah. First of all, he said that metaltalin has a precedent over idis. I thought he just said it's because of Balchov. Didn't he say that? Or no? I made a mistake in that. Or that was. One second. Let me just go back. No, fil sheish lo kesef yochel subin, right? 1 second. Here, he said, when we want to collect, you see if the mazik has metalton, and you go into the karka, right? So he said the reason why we do that is because of an analogy from Baal Chov, right? Correct?
Yeah.
How do I know that I take metalton? He says because it happens in Baal Chov, right? Now over here, all of a sudden, when it says im ein lo metalton yordan lekaka sidushin chasav, why does he need Mara there in Gittin to tell you that? If he doesn't have any metalton, then you go to the best of his land. It's strange. I don't understand this Bechlal, this Beit Yosef. Okay, we have to read people to explain it. Okay, let's go weiter.
Is it because of? Is it a question of the idis of the karka idis?
I don't understand. It is the Torah says Meitav Karma. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
The Torah says Meitav. So what does he want from that Gemara over there? I don't understand what he wants. Again, this note, I don't know if this Gittin Mishnah Bereish Perek Nezikin. He says it. It's a Mishnah there. What does the Mishnah have to do with us? Okay, iyun. Okay, let's go weiter, and we'll go further. Okay.
Masha Kosov, Afilu im zibur shel mazik k'tovo k'idus shel nizak inu mekabel mimenu. Even if the worst land, even if the worst land of the damaged party is as good as the best land. Even if the worst land of the damager is as good as the best land of the damaged party, inu mekabel mimenu, he doesn't take that from him. So he has to give him from the best of his land, which is subjectively his best.
Right, exactly.
Bereish Baba Kama, the beginning of Baba Kama. I guess this refers to Rabbi Kiva's argument.
Right.
Tana Rabban of Meitav Sadehu Meitav Karma Shalem, which is our Mishnah. Meitav Sadehu Meitav Karma Shal Nizak Diva Rabbi Shmo. So he should give the best of his vineyard and the best of his land according to the Nizak, according to
Rabbi Shmuel.
The one who is the damaged party. That's Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Rabbi Kiva disagrees, and he says, Lo ba'hakasav elakavos l'nazikin min ha'idis ve'asikna deba pligi.
And we conclude that I'm sorry, that's a new piece. Yeah. That's why I indented it. Rabbi Akiva said, no, it comes from the idis. We collect from the idis. So now, this is fine. This makes a lot of sense. Now he's just saying, Vasikna Bahai. The Gemara concludes that this is what the argument is between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel. Vasikna Bahai Pligay. The Rabbi Shmuel, now he's summarizing the Gemara.
Rabbi Shmuel Savar ben Ezekiel Sheyashminan.
Shaiminan. We do evaluation.
Oh, Shaiminan. That we do evaluations and damages. He reasoned that we do an evaluation.
According to the Nizak, he's going to spell it out.
Nizak, that's a Beit Nizak. I saw it is the Nizak, because the Zibur is the Mazik, that if the best land of the damaged party is as good as the worst land of the damager, Yahiv le Ziburus, he should give him the worst.
The Mazik, in other words, you give the Mazik's worst because that's equal to the Nizak. That was Rabbi Shmuel. Right?
Right.
But Rabbi Akiva
reasons the Mazik Shayin, meaning that we evaluate according to the damager. Yahiv le Idis, and he should give him the Idis of the Mazik. The Kaimalon.
And we establish the rule is the rule in that we learned from Erevun is what?
Halacha ki Rabbi Akiva mechaver. That Rabbi Akiva always, I guess when he is arguing with a single other voice, then he wins.
Right. When he's arguing with a group, then he loses. But if he argues against a single person, he wins. So here is that's why this fits very nicely. I mean, he's just explaining the source of the tour to say that we go, even if the Masik worst is equal to the best of the Nizak, the Masik has to give his best. Where do we learn it from? From Agamara. And even though Samach Lokus, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Kiva, though the rule is that Allah always fires Rabbi Kiva when he's fighting one person. So that is the end of the Beit Yosef. It's commentary. Okay? Now we'll read what the Bach has to say. Okay. Just wanted to...
The Bach is organized as a commentary on the tour?
Yes, the Bach is a commentary on the tour. Oops, how come it's not working? Oops, where's my nice little chart? It's up here. Here we go. Okay. He's called the Beit Chadash. Okay, so here's the Rush, Rabbi Paris. Here's the Bach. He's called Reb Yoel Tzirkus. Okay, he lives 1156 1640. You see, that's after the Yosef Kairos dies in 75, and he was a little kid then, you know. But in other words, I don't know. This is also a problem. What's contemporary and what's called not? Okay, but he can argue with Yosef Cairo, even though those few years don't make a dramatic break. Okay, so he's Rebbe Yoel Tzirkus. He's the Beit Chadash, and he's from Lublin, interesting, Poland. We're going to look at Reb Moshe Is, remember, who is the Ramah with an Aleph. He's from Krakow. And Reb Mordechai Yaffe, he's the Lavush, and he's from Pozna, Poland, right? And Reb Yeshua Katz, he's also from Poland. He writes on the Shulchan Aruch. We're going to see that it's very interesting. In the printed versions that we have, you have all these Ashkenazim, you know, fighting with the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so now let's read him. So he's an Ashkenaz who is now going to comment on the tour. Let's say, oops, very interesting. So he's called the Beit Chadash, a new house. Let's see. Okay, it's the Russia. I didn't make so many links here. Okay, we'll just do it quickly. Very interesting. There we go. So let's read what he has to say. Okay, he's always printed on the opposite, like Rashi and Tosfos on different sides of the pages. But he's always there on the opposite side. Okay, let's see what he has to say. Is that big enough, by the way? Should I just make it a little bigger for you?
See what he's quoting. He's quoting from the tour. Here?
He's a commentary on the tour.
On the tour.
Yes, exactly. That's the same beginning commentary as
And he's aware of Yosef Khan.
Very much so.
Okay.
And we'll see if he's an advocate or an adversary.
Uh-huh. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see.
So, Shabbat.
Keshebayin lahagvus. That's the beginning. That's the quote, right?
Keshebayin lahagvus. Right. So when the judges are come to collect for the Nizak, Nira de Rabbeinu lamad lepasuk kach.
Lifsok kach.
Lifsok kach. So it seems that this is how how the tour decided to paskin, to judge. What is that? Mahi the
Perek Kama the Baba Kama. From the first chapter of Baba Kama.
Deramile Abaye Rabba, from the argument between Abaye and Rabba.
Right. Abaye asked the Rumia to Rabba.
To Rabba.
Go ahead.
Kasav Meita Sadehu in Midi Achrina Lo.
That's what Abaye said.
So Abaye said, right, he said that you can pay with the best of the land,
You must pay
but
with the best
not
of your
with
land.
something else.
You must pay. Mate of Sadeu in, you must pay with the best of your land, and not with anything else. That's what the word Meitav is. Meitav Sadeu. He says Meitav Sadeu means you must pay with the best of your land and nothing else. That's what Abaye said. Vahai Tanya. But wait a minute, said Abaye. Go ahead. We have a brisa.
So he said that we have a brisa that says the Rabbos Shava Kesef, Subin, that even the equivalent of money, and even Subin, even brand can count, can be a good form of payment.
Right. So from the word Meitav, we said, right, we said the word Meitav means nothing else, and yet we see everything else, the worst. That was Abaye's problem, the two Pesukim, right? Meitav and Yosef. Right?
Right. The Osik Rav Papa, Rav Huna Bereder Rav Yeshua,
include.
Call me the Meitav.
That call me the Meitav.
Include?
To conclude. Like Askinan, the Maskana.
Askina,
It means to conclude. So the Gemara concludes, or Rav Papa, excuse me.
That anything, right, Rav Papa and Rav Huna
Bereder Yeshua conclude
that anything is considered meitav. Any item could be considered meitav. The ilo mizdabin, if he does not, if he can't sell it here, he can sell it in another region. Levad me'ara, delisi meitav, except for land, which alone has to be considered. Which has to be
which he has to give Meitav of.
Which he can only
give Meitav of.
Ki heicha delikpoitz aleha zvina, so that others will jump on it.
Okay.
So the prospective buyers will jump on it.
Right. So he made a precious a consapulation. What is it? I can't remember English anymore. He condensed the Gemara very quickly.
Encapsulation.
Right?
Yeah.
Encapsulation of the Gemara. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now he's going to say what he has to say. Alma.
Alma means what? But or however.
Alma, we see. Okay. Alma, therefore. From this Gemara. Therefore.
Alma the metaltalin hayu tfei meitav mekarke ve'afilu sudin. So we see from this Gemara that metaltalin is preferable to meitav, meitav karka. And even subin is better.
Right.
Even subin as a form of metaltalin is preferable to best land.
Right. So now, again, the question on the floor is, where did the Tur get this idea that you don't take meitav karka first? You actually take metaltalin first. So the Beit Yosef said it was from his father's ruling in Balchov. Comes along the Bach and says, excuse me, this is not the source of the Tur. The source of the Tur is Agamara and Baba Kama. It's Reb Papa. Because we see that metaltalin is better than karka. Why? Because you can sell it. If you don't sell it, it's there. Interesting?
It is. This I guess it's so funny. We talked around this last time. Around this way of reading the Rav Papa, and now it's actually here. It's very explicit.
Exactly.
When we're saying that Rav Papa's the force of his argument is really contained in the word mizdavim, that he's saying, look, it's about selling things. And so that really implies that karka is actually secondary, even though it's equivalent. I mean, it's not that it's secondary. It's not secondary in the strong sense. It's not like you know. But since the question is one of getting your money as quickly as possible, so metaltalin does come first in terms of ease.
Now this is a svara. You see. You see.
Yeah.
how you read the Gemara, because the Gemara says, but wait a minute, the Torah did say Meitav in land in order that the buyers would jump. Now, when the buyers jump at the land, does that make that equivalent to the metalton that you can run all over the place and get as many buyers as you want? You see? Now there's a svara. What are you going to say? So one svara to say is that what you lost in mobility in land, you gained in desirability. So now there's an equivalent between the best land and metalton. That's one svara. The other svara says, no. You'll never get what metalton has. But will allow even the best of land. In other words, we'll lower the, what is that called? Lower the bar. The Torah is lowering the bar to, say, the best of the land. But it's a lowering. It's not a, but that's all svara. That's all svara. That's all explanation of what Reb Papa meant. Again, that leap to the physical words, to the understanding. And the Bach is, I mean, why didn't the Beit Yosef say this, you see? Why didn't the Beit Yosef say it?
It's true.
Interesting, huh? Okay, now let's go a little further. The Bach is not, he's not done yet.
ואף על פי שהניזק חפץ יותר בקרקע, and even if the damaged party would rather have land, matzi, let's
Omalei. Matzalei mazik.
So we find that the mazik says to him, the damager says to him, Ana yahavna lechat kedinach memetav dehainu metaltale ve'afilu suvin. Ana yahavna. What's yahavna?
Yahavna is to give. I have given you. Ana, I have given to you, kedincha, comma. I have given to you according to your din. Oops. What's your din? Mimetav.
Mimetav.
So what do you want from me? To get that better. Oops.
What is he saying here? What does he say?
Even the Nizak, say the Nizak wants cardinal metaltalin, right? He wants I'd rather have land than your metaltalin. So the mazik can say to him, wait a minute, I'm giving you your din. I'm giving you, the Torah says meitav, right? So the Nizak is saying, wait a minute, it says meitav haaretz. He says, no, it says meitav haaretz. You got to give meitav. You have to give something that's meitav. When it comes to haaretz, the meitav haaretz is the meitav. But when it comes to metaltalin, all metaltalin is called meitav. So you have nothing to say. I'm giving you meitav. But I want meitav haaretz. So I'm sorry, I'm giving you meitav. So the question is, how are you going to define meitav? You see, this was the big revolution of Reb Papa, to define meitav as spongibility or convertibility, right? That was the chiddush of Reb Papa. And that put meitav haaretz on the bottom, and meitav haaretz was like a compensation for spongibility. You know, I mean, it's like, okay, I mean, you'll get your money back, but never an equivalent. So it's very interesting, very interesting. So the Nizak has no claim to land, because what are you going to say? I want the best. You're getting the best. What do you mean? Subin is the best? Yeah. Because you could get your money back. What's the difference? You get your money back. Land, land is, you're going to have to run around and sell it. You only have 4 or 5 people around you. How many people do you have around this field that's even interested? So I gave you the best. Now you want better than best. Well, you want a different best? You don't deserve a different best. I just have to give you the best. Very interesting. Let's read point 3 here. See, there's a world of difference in just reading Peshat in the Gemara. Okay.
Yeah. But if he doesn't have metaltalin, Yahav len meitav sadehu dehainu idus. So in the in case he does not have movables, then he must give him the best of his field, which means the idus, the highest quality.
Right. Explain Rav Papa. Aval.
Yeah. Well, im hamazik chafetz litein lo karka, vehanizak chafetz v'metaltalin. So if the damager now wants to give him land, but the damaged party prefers to have movables, ein hanizak yachol l'choifer. The nizak cannot
Force him.
force him or cannot
Yeah,
force him to give
force
him.
him.
This is interesting. This is a new idea. We did this.
Exactly. You see this again. These are the holes that must be filled, right? They're the questions that must be filled now. That's the beauty.
This is a new idea, even in the
Exactly.
even in the tour. It's not there in the tour.
It's not in the tour. Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't commented about. Now what about it?
Right. So Ela Nosa no idis karkosal. He gives him the best of his land. Because that's according to the pasuk itself.
Let's read it again. So what's the din here? Aval im hamazik chovetz liten lo karka, v'hanizik he wants metaltalin. Ein hanizik yochel
Putting
he
everything in the
can't.
hands of the mazik.
Exactly. Elanos
Everything
haniz
is
karka
the
zah.
mazik. Yeah.
All the mazik has to do is give meitav. But he can decide
Right.
what meitav is. He can give
What is
him
meitav?
exactly. He can give him land or he can give him metaltalin because it's meitav. So 1 second. So what does it mean that the Beis Din now is going to collect from the metaltalin, and they don't collect from the, and they don't
That's just
collect.
that's the best, and only if they're forced to. In other words, that here the mazik has the freedom to pay in whatever form of currency that he wants.
Right.
But it doesn't. But when we're talking about the Bezdin, there's limitations on the Bezdin on what they can collect, depending on the will of the mazik. But if the mazik himself is willing to pay in anything, then that's fine. The Bezdin can't force him, right? They can't force him to pay. He just has to pay whatever currency.
Right. They can't. Yeah, because again, the Havamina is he has to pay meitav karka. And the answer is he doesn't have to pay meitav karka, he just has to pay meitav. So if he wants to give subin, he can give subin. I mean, right? The Havamina, that was what we said. According to the Bach, what the Torah was saying is, look, don't bring me this pasuk of Sadeu as if it has some sort of strength. It has no strength. Meitav is what the mazik has to give. So you can't force him to give meitav Sadeu. He's giving meitav, subin is meitav. So you can't force him. If he wants to give karka, he can give karka too, no doubt about it. But it's all in his hands. But you can't force him to give metaltalin over karka. No way. Excuse me. You can't force him to give karka metaltalin. He can give what he wants. Or either way. No, exactly. He can give what he wants. Exactly. That's the chiddush of the Bach in explaining the Torah. So when it says that we don't go down to his meitav, says the Torah, right? But we go to the metaltalin first. The Bach is explaining all that means is even though the pasuk says meitav sadeu, it means we can't force the mazik to give meitav sadeu. That's all the Torah is saying. Very simply, that's all he's saying. You can't force him. He can give what he wants. If he wants to give meitav sadeu, he can. If he wants to meitav metaltalin, even subin, he can. Interesting. Now, he adds here, on this point, that's why I put a 1 here. Yeah, that's what we said about Liner Mazik Chofetz Liten Karka, he can give it. And he says, Umizeh.
Okay. Umizeh, Lokas of Rabbeinu Klum, he didn't write about this at all.
He didn't talk about this case, right?
Because it's obvious. Yeah. He doesn't have to. It is obvious. He was talking about the harder case. He's talking about, all along the Rambam and the Tur, we pointed out all along that they introduced, it's implied, of course, from the beginning that the Bezdin is deciding here, but they're the ones who put it in terms of the Bezdin. We're looking at it from their perspective and what they can enforce.
Exactly.
So
And the
he sees it
Havamina
as
and the
cheaper.
Havamina is that since it says Meitiv Sadehu that they can enforce Meitiv Sadehu. That's the Havamina. And they're trying to, and the Torah is trying to say that's not true, that they can enforce Meitiv Sadehu. That's a pasuk, but we don't hold that way. We hold like Rav Papa, which means that Subin is even called Meitav. But
Right.
what they're fighting is a person who read the Chumash on the Parsha Shavua. He says, "Wait a minute, I have a right to get the best." The Nizak says, "I have a right to get the best of the land." He said, "You didn't read the Gemara, Rav Papa. What do you want from my life?" So that's why I'm telling you the halacha. If you would have read Rav Papa, he says he has a right to give you a metaltalin. That's called Meitav. Karka give Karka, but he can give you Meitav too. Very interesting. So, and the reason why Rabbeinu didn't talk about it, because that was an obvious case. There was no, the only force was to say the pasuk says Meitav Sadeu, and therefore I could force you to give me, he says the Nizak, your best land. But the fact that if I want to give you, I can. The Torah didn't have to spell it out because that wasn't an issue. It's obvious. He can give that, right? That's what he says. Mizelo kasav klum. Peshitahu ben nezikin. Yeah. Why? Now we'll continue. Dal korchacho. Maybe I don't know.
Perkuf the Baba Rabbeinu La'ayla, some of
Okay, I don't know. These are all sources which I don't know. It says, "Umizelo kasef Rabbeinu klum the b'shitahu b'nezikin dal korchacho lo kasef harash in Perek Kama the Baba Kama Rabbeinu La'ayl the Samach Kuf Aleph Ella b'balchov." You see, it's not good. It's separated here, unfortunately, on the page. So let's put that together. Okay, this whole business that the aggrieved party can force, right? Like the aggrieved party is the creditor, right? So now he can force the Nizak to give metaltal, and if he can force the Nizak to give, he has strength to force the Nizak metaltal, right? He's the aggrieved party. So the Bach is going to say this, that the aggrieved party can force the other side to give is only in Balchov, but not in Nezik. In Nezik, he has no power. In Nezik and the Nizak, the aggrieved party has no power over the Mazik. The Mazik can give what he wants as long as it's Meitav. And the only time the Rush spoke about the power of the aggrieved party was in Balchov, but not in Nezikin. So that's what we're going to read inside. You understand what's going on here? He's fighting the Beit Yosef interpretation completely. He says, "Forget it, boy. You didn't know how to read the Rush.
Right.
You had no idea how to. You gave you attributed, the Yosef Cairo attributed the tour to what the Rush said about Balchov. He said, forget about it. The Torah said what he said because of Rav Papa. And Balchov has nothing to do with this issue. In Balchov, the aggrieved party has a right for a demand. And nothing to do with the Nizak. The Nizak never has a right to put any demand. As long as he gives him Meitav, that's it. Interesting, huh?
It is interesting. That's why he says, that's why he fills out the other possibility of paying with land if he wants to, right?
Right, exactly.
Because why would there be need for it?
He says that was out.
To even mention
yeah, exactly. Why I mentioned that, exactly.
But he's mentioning it in order to get rid of the Balchov argument.
Right. And to say that the aggrieved party here has no power whatsoever.
Right.
Everything is in the hands of the Mazik. Okay, so let's read it. So that's what he says. Umizelo kasef Rabbeinu klum. This case, right, where the Mazik wants to give the best, best land, right? The b'shitahu b'nezikin. Dal korchalo kosa harash and this is our rush that the Perakama Babakama, right? U Rabbeinu La'ayel B'Samochin Kuf Aleph, which I didn't look at yet. Okay, he also spoke in Kuf Aleph. Ella, this doesn't deserve a number, it's a mistake on my part. I'm sorry. I'll just get rid of that number and move it now. The only time the aggrieved party had any power is Balchov. Balchov. Right? You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, keep going. The im.
Yeah. The im chafatz melave the metalton. That if the malve, I always forget what the malve.
The malve is the one with the money.
Is it better?
Mem.
He's the creditor. Okay.
He has the mem. Right. He has the money. The logo is lacking the mem.
Money. Okay. Okay.
The malva has the money.
If the creditor prefers metalton, he prefers movables. Ein halove yachol l'choifa likach imenu karka. The one who, the debtor can't force him to take land from him. And the love is in the position of the mazik.
Exactly.
So,
oh, 1 second. The lova is, yes, exactly. Yes.
Lova is, so he can't force. No, wait a minute.
Let's go. Yeah, you say it slowly. Good.
So if the creditor, who's in the position of the nizak, says, "I want metalton," we can't make the lova, who's in the position of the mazik, of the damager. The damager can't force him. So in other words, he can't be forced. That's what I'm confusing me. The one doing the damage can't be forced to give land. He can give metalton. It's switched away. So he can't force him to take land from him. He can give him metalton if he the mazik or the love prefers. So it's in the hands of the...
No, 1 second. Let me read this again. De'im chofetz the malva metaltalin. If the creditor wants metaltalin, the lova ein halova yochel lekofo likach mimenu karka. The borrower can't force the creditor to take karka.
Oh, so he has to give him metaltalin.
He has to give metaltalin.
Which is not the case here. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is not the case here. Why? They came into Zuzi Yehivle since the Malva gave the Lova money.
Him money.
Yeah.
So Shakil Mita the Mikro the Zuzi Tfei. So he has to pay out with, it's better, preferable if he pays out with Zuzi also, with money.
He has a right to take something that is more close to Zuze. The Malva, since he gave money, has a right to take that which is more closer to money. Hainu, metaltalin, which is metaltalin. Right?
Right.
Well, Hanizak.
He's really spelling out the difference here.
Yeah. Val hanizak.
Well, the nezikin ain't a nizak yachol l'chol falitin l'metaltalin. But in the case of damages, the nizak, the damaged party, can't force him to pay him with metaltalin. V'lo chasav rabbeinu ele hachi heicho dehamazik chafetz litin l'metaltalin. And the Tur only wrote in this fashion that the damager prefers to give him the metaltalin. V'hanizak einu chafetz b'karka. And the damaged party does not desire land, or is he saying?
No, he only wants the nizak wants land, and the mazik wants to give metaltalin.
Right.
Rabbeinu spoke only about the case where the mazik wanted to give metaltalin, and the nizak only wanted karka. K'dekasiv kro meitav sadehu, because he brings the pasuk, Nizak. He says, come on, I want karka. It says, Meitav Sadeu. Right? V'kamar dechayev likach metaltalin, and the chiddush of the Torah was that the Nizak must take metaltalin. Kedekasiv nami kro yoshiv afilu subin. Because the pasuk said, he's spelling it out, okay, very clearly.
Yeah.
He's saying, why did the Torah, in other words, what case was the Torah talking about when he said, when the Beis Din wants to collect, right, it's goven from the metaltalin. It's goven from the metaltalin l'tchila. He was talking about the case where the Nizak wanted Meitav Karka, and he brings the pasuk, Meitav Sadehu. And he was telling us that the Beis Din cannot take Meitav Sadehu. It goes to the metaltalin, because all metaltalin is good. We'll read this again. Let's read it again.
Yeah. I think I'm...
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was the scenario that the Torah was talking about, was the Nizak comes to court and he says, I read the Sedra. I have a right to take Meitav Sadeh and Meitav Carmel. So the Torah is saying to the Beis Din, don't listen to this guy. The Mazik, the only thing you can collect from the Mazik is metaltalin. Why? Because Reb Papa said metaltalin is called Meitav. And if he wants to give metaltalin, then he can. So don't listen to this Mazik who's saying, Meitav Sadeh, Meitav Carmel. Because Reb Papa said, the Mazik can give metaltalin. It's called Meitav. Now the other case that the Torah didn't talk about was obvious, because that wasn't really an issue. If the Mazik wants to give Meitav and the Nizak wants to get metaltalin, so there's no big deal about that. You know what I'm saying? Because the Mazik wants to give Meitav, that's what the pasuk says. Now you want something less, so okay, it's obvious the Mazik in that case can give you Meitav. The chiddush of the Reb Papa was to say that metaltalin is as good as Meitav, and the Mazik has a right to give it because that's called Meitav, right? That was the chiddush. That was the case. The chiddush case was the case the Torah was talking about. So the other cases, I mean, that was an obvious case, and it's all taken from Reb Papa, and has nothing to do with Nazik, with Balchov.
Balchov.
What to do with Balchov? Balchov's a different case. You know,
it's not just a different case, but the whole point, he's rejecting the Balchov argument because it introduces a limitation, which is not here.
Exactly.
It introduces a limitation on the Mazik, which is not here.
Right. But and also there was a svara, as the Beit Yosef himself alluded to. The reason why the Malva, the creditor, has a right to demand metaltalin is because it's closer to money. He has a right to demand the Nizak here. The aggrieved party has a right to demand because he gave money, so he has a right to demand money back. So he's in the picture of demanding what he has a right to get back. But the Nizak has no right to demand anything. I mean, you can't give Bainas and Zibris land, but he has no right. When it comes to metaltalin and karka, he has no right to say, yeah, well, what rights does he have here? He didn't give anything. You're just getting paid back. What's the difference if he gets paid back in as long as he gets paid back in Meitav Karka, or even Subin is all called Meitav. But he has no special rights. The Malva has the creditor has special rights because he did give something. But here, all you're doing is getting money back. So all the difficulties that the Beit Yosef alluded to, the Bach uses and says, come on, don't put these two disparate things together. What are you doing? What are you putting these two together? You want to know the source of the Torah. The source of the Torah is Reb Papa. Very interesting.
It's a cleaner approach, I think.
Yeah, definitely it's a cleaner approach.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like apologetic, and
Right.
there's so many problems to what the Beit Yosef said. Now the only question is, why didn't the Beit Yosef use this approach? Okay, but that's another way I have to get involved more. But let's finish the Bach anyway.
Okay. So number 3.
Yeah, number 3.
Yeah. V'delo kinira medivrei Beit Yosef.
Oh, now he says it. Now he pulls out the straight gun.
Right.
What I just said is not like what appears the Beit Yosef said. Yeah.
The Havin medivrei Rabbeinu, the Kavanasan Loimar, he understands the words of the Torah to mean as follows, to say as follows.
Yeah.
Chefinam loive the mazik litem lo metaltalin.
That we force.
I understand the last part of that now.
We force the lover, the debtor.
The debtor. We force. Well, why do you say lamazik? Is he comparing lamazik and the?
Rega. I have to read it to myself. I don't got it. The confinin lover lamazik liten lo metaltalin. The lover can force. No. Yes. The kafinin lova lamazik liten metaltalin. That we.
Could the hay be in the superfluous there? The chafina lo lamazik, like to him, to the mazik? It's lova. Or is it like a comma there? The chafina lova, comma, lamazik, making a comparison between the two of them. We force the lova or the mazik.
I think we force the lova. One second. What's supposed to be? Let's see what's Pshat is supposed to be. Okay.
Well,
there we're
he's saying that we force, just as we force the love to give him metaltalin to the malve, so too we would force, by the logic of the Beit Yosef, we'd force the mazik to give metaltalin.
Yes.
That's exactly what the Bach is rejecting here.
Yes. But it's interesting because he switched the two terms. It's lova and the mazik. It's two separate.
But those are the similar ones. They're the ones we're paying back.
So like we force the lova and the mazik to give metaltalin. No.
Yeah, that was the argument of the base.
Yes, exactly.
By bringing in that Balchov, so he made them equivalent to the lova and the mazik in this respect, that just as the lova is in fact, in the case of Balchov, forced to give metaltalin because that's what the malava wants and gave him in the first place.
Right.
So he extended that to the mazik. So that's...
Maybe it should be a vav there, like you said. The kafinin lova ula mazik or something like that.
Ah, okay.
Maybe. Okay, may I have to look at the text myself and be careful. Okay. V'holeis, this says the Bach is not true. Right?
Right.
Ella, go ahead.
Ella could
the parashti. As I explained.
The
yad hamazik.
Just as I explained right now?
Yes.
The yad hamazik al heliana, that the mazik has the upper hand?
Yes. He can decide what he wants to give. No one's going to push him around.
Right. The kach mufarish b'divrei
Hamagid, I think it's Hamagid. I think that's a wrong thing. Divrei Hamagid it should be. Hamagid, the Magid Mishnah. We didn't do the Magid Mishnah. Magid Mishnah, I think, should be Midivrei. I think it should be Midivrei. I have to look back at the text. Midivrei. I think it's the Magid Mishnah. He writes on the Rambam. Reish Perik Aleph the Chovel ube Peitet of Nezikin. We have to look at that. I didn't look at those sources. But he brings the on the Rambam. He brings on the Rambam.
Well, it's Hilchas.
Hilchas, you're right.
Maybe it's Hilchas Amagid, right?
Yeah, probably Hilchas Amagid. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't mean I share that value.
Because it's Hilchas Nezikin Amon. Yeah.
Right. So he's going to bring from the Maggid Mishnah, who is not the Tur, the Beit Yosef is the Kesef Mishnah. And, but there's a Maggid Mishnah. We didn't read that. We have to. I mean, those are other sources. But here we see anyway, there is a frontal attack of the Beit Chadash on the Tur. Very. You have a little more time? Let's see. Or.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Attack on the Beit Yosef, right?
It's an attack on the Beit, a frontal attack on the Beit Yosef. It couldn't be more brutal. In Peshat in the Tur.
Yeah. Right.
So now, I mean, the next level would be, so then what would be the defense of the Tur? The Beit Yosef, I'm sorry. How come he understood it this way, which was extremely dachuk? I mean, why is he fighting so hard? Okay, let's read a little of the Drisha now. Who is the Drisha? He's another, the Poles were very, the Polish Jews were very, they say Rachmanis before the war, 3/4 of the world's Jews were in Poland. Poland was a very big center of Jewish for a long time. I read a little bit of history that they were very, the Poles were very nice to the Jews actually in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning, for sure.
In the beginning, they let us come in.
We just hosted some. We had some as a family. It may be the only frum Jewish family in Krakow.
You're kidding.
We hosted them here because their daughter has. Well, they have nowhere. They're Chabadnikim, and they have nowhere. Their children are getting old now, and they don't have education for them there, so they're sending their kids to Vienna. Study because it's a wasteland.
Yeah, there's nothing. Mamish, wow, isn't it amazing?
In Krakow, apparently, they have a kosher restaurants in Krakow that they run.
Crazy. What the world has come to, I tell you. Mamish, what the world has come to. I messed all my things up here. Okay, I have to do. I don't know what happened, but the formatting started to switch on me from left to right to left. I know, and I don't know why this all happened. Okay, that's how it's supposed to be, but this is supposed to be different. What can I tell you? Okay, we're going to work on that. Let's do a little bit of the Drisha, okay, just to see what I wanted to look at. Here, word has gone wild. Okay, that's now. What I was just trying to do here is just keeping track of who the people are, who the Drisha is. Okay, so the Drisha about Krakow, isn't that Menashemayim? Reb Yeshua Falkes. He wrote Drisha and the Prisha, and also the Sman, the Shulchan Aruch. Very, very prolific. So we're going to do the Drisha now. Let's see what he has from Krakow. And he's 1550. He's the same time really as the. Oh, that's the Levush. Okay, so we just did the Beit Chadash. So yeah, they're pretty much contemporaries, right? I mean, 1600s. They're all about the same time. So let's read here a little bit of the Drisha just to get our feet wet. Let's see what he has to say. Let me make it bigger, just in case you can help me read it a little there. Okay, Drisha. Yeah.
So see, tough you to Kshbain, Agwas and Nizak is koi. When they come to collect the damages for the damaged party, the Baba Kamadaf Zain Ramilei Abai Rabba, Is it?
Yeah, that's the same. So,
This is the page, and
yeah, but he says ayin babach. Look at the Bach who brought it.
Ah,
So he read the Bach and he said, just look at what the Bach said about it. Okay, let's see what he has to say here. Pirush Rashi.
So is this Pirush Rashi, he's saying?
Yes, now he's giving over Rashi. He's now filling out the more of the details here. I mean, more of the Gemara. Let's see what he does. Rashi said.
What's Mitratza?
Teretz. With this, Rashi said, Bahachi mitartze kro. With this, we have a solution to the conflict of the Pesukim. B'metalton yoshiv afilu subin, and besodes iten metav. Okay? In other words, what was Reb Papa doing? Reb Papa was explaining the contradiction between metalton, afilu subin, and metav soda. Right? Because one contradicts the other. You either have to give the best of the best or the worst of the worst, right? So he just tells us that he said, look at what the Bach just said, and now I'm just going to spell out or bring to you on the page what Rashi said. Okay? I don't know why he's doing it though. Vishuv garsin sham daf tes. But yet, again, Rashi said on daf tes, v'zel lashano. He brought, in other words, he brought Rashi, what Rashi on Vav, right? That really Reb Papa is, actually was said in Rav's name, was trying to explain the Pesukim of Yoshiv and Meitav. And then he brought Rav Huna, that's Rashi, when he said Rav Huna Omer Kesav Meitav, V'i Lesle Yoshiv Afilu. If he doesn't have Yoshiv,
Yoshiv meaning money.
No, V'ilesle Yoshiv afilu sluvin. I'm sorry. And if he doesn't have
V'ilesle Kesev, Yoshiv afilu sluvin. Right.
Yes, if he doesn't have, well, we don't know. Simply, Rav Huna said, well, according to Rashi, no, Rashi says if he doesn't have Kesev or Meitav, then he can give Subin.
Or
right?
Meitav.
No, if he doesn't have Kesef or Meitav, right? Rav Huna said, Omer o Kesef or Meitav. V'lesle Kesef or Meitav, Rashi says, then Yoshiv afilu Subin. Right? When Rav Huna said, if you don't have Kesef or Meitav, then you could give Subin. Ve'enu yochel lomar lamazik parech moche ba'aise lizuze. And the Nizak can't say to the mazik, the mazik can't say to the nizak, you go out and you sell your subin and bring me money.
Right.
Okay, but that is a summarization of Rashi. He says, first Rashi says that the Reb Papa was answering the contradiction between subin and meitav. But Rav Huna was saying, really another answer, and he said the only Subin is not an alternative. Subin is not an alternative to. In other words, he has a whole different, as we said 100 times. Rav Papa is saying that Meitav is Metaltalin Afilu Subin. And it's only in land that you have to give Meitav. But when it came to Rav Huna, he had a different interpretation. He said Meitav is better than Subin. And only if you don't have Meitav or Kesef do you have to give Subin. And Rav Huna said, Ve'enu yom lamazik, and this was the end of that Gemara over there, right? What was the Chiddush? If you don't have Meitav or Subin, if you don't have Kesef of Meitav, you can give Subin. The Gemara said that he can give Subin, and you, the Nizak can't say to the mazik, you go out and sell your subin and bring me money, right? That's what Rav Huna said. Okay. Now he's bringing the Torah. He's bringing everybody here. Because of Atul v'Harush b'Shem Harif, and now the Tosfos, and also the Rush in the name of the Rif, the Halacha Karev Papa. Oh boy. The Svarale the Metaltalin Meitav Mikre. Now this is a bombshell here. We just said. V'katvu hatosfos v'harush b'shem harif. Oh, you're right. This is correct. The Tosfos, if you remember, when quoting the Rif, and the Rush himself explaining the Rif, said that the halacha is like Reb Papa. It's not Rabbeinu Tam. Are you with me? I didn't. In other words, in Tosfos brought the Rif, and also the Rush brought the Rif, and both of them said the Rif said it himself, that the halacha is like Reb Papa. Why? The Svarale the Metaltalin Meitav Mikre. That Metaltalin is called Meitav. Right? Now he's going through the Rush. He's bringing now, I guess if people didn't read all the background material as we did, he's bringing it. V'daik HaRush, and the Rush is that what? The Filu Isle Kesiv Okarka, even if the mazik has Kesiv or Karka, Harashut biado liten lo afilu subin. The Rush's explanation of the Rif is that even if the mazik has Kesiv or Karka, he can give subin, right?
Yeah.
V'zeh Shano. Here's a quote. He's quoting. D'lekan amrinan omale Rav Kahana l'Rav. Oh, and this is the proof of the Rush, because further on we have a statement that Rav Kahana said to Rav, right? Elataima the Kasav Rachman Vamesi Elo. Ola Havamina Navel the Mazikave Hashti Yisle the Dide Yehivle the Omama Yoshiva Filu Subin the Vela Dide mi boy Yisle Rav Huna Lema the Itzerikroy the Isle Kesev Ometav. That's the end of his quote. In other words, what he's doing now, the Drisha, is bringing the Raya of the Rush, that you must say that Kesef, Karka, and Subin are equal. This was the Raya of the Rush, because if you're going to say that Subin is like Rav Huna, less than Karka, so then this Gemara won't make sense, because we will need Hamesi Elo in the case where he has Kesef and Karka. There he couldn't give the Nevela back, because Subin is only when you don't have Kesef and Karka. So what he's doing here is explaining why the Rush concluded that you must be able to give Subin on an equal status of Meitav and Kesef, unlike Rav Huna. That was the Rush's Raya, if you remember, to the Rif, that the halacha is like Reb Papa. Okay. Now, Visham Lifneze Kasav HaRush. Now, before he brought the Raya, the Rush said, V'zel Shano, Kol Shemuto Alav Lifroa, Ben Nezikin, Ben Lachov, Poreya Lefi Dato, Velo Lefi Das Ha Govea. Well, I don't remember reading that. We'd have to look back there. He quotes the Rush as saying like this: Kol shemuto alav lefroa. Any time there is an obligation on someone to pay back. Ben lenazik and ben lebalchov. Whether it's the mazik paying back in the zikin, or whether it's lova paying back in balchov. Ben nezikin, ben lebalchov. Poreya lefi dato. Velo lefi das hagoveya. Wait a minute, that's no good. What is he saying here?
What's the Govea? Who's the Govea?
Collects. Porea lefi, he pays according to the, let's spell it out here, right? When the mazik has to pay back, or when the lova has to pay back, kol shemut alav lifro ben nezikin ben lebalchov porea lefi dato. Who's the dato? V'lo lefi das agova. Kagon. Im yesh lo kama karka'o shebekulan idis yiten lo eze sheyirtze.
Who? The collector? Or
Who? The collector or the... Oh, yeah, exactly.
well, it must be the creditor.
It must be the...
I mean, that's what a Balchov is.
The Balchov is the creditor, right?
Yeah, the creditor or the Nizak.
Wait a minute. V'lo lefi das ha-govea. Who's the govea is the collector.
What does lifro mean by itself?
Lifro means to pay back. So that's talking about the lova or the nizak. Kol shemuto alav lifroa, the person, everything that falls upon the person to pay back. In other words, the debtor or the mazik, right? Ben nezik and ben lebalchov, porei lefi dato. Who? The das of the poreya. V'lo lefi das agovea. No, that doesn't make sense. V'lo lefi das agova. Not the one who's collecting. Not
doesn't make sense according to
no, it doesn't make sense.
What we said according to the Bach.
He gives an example. Kagon. Im yesh lo. Who's the lo here? I always put in the. That's what I sit and work on these things because of these what are that called? The pronouns. Im yesh lo. That means if the person who is, let's say, the mazik and the malva, mazik and the lova, right? Those are the people who are paying back. Yeah. If he has kamakarkos, let's make it simple. The mazik has a few pieces of land, and all of them are idis, right? Yiten lo eze sheyirtza. So we're seeing that the mazik has the choice to give what he can give back. That's what he's saying in the example, right?
Yeah.
So that's what he's saying. He's saying, Kol shemut alav lifroa. Let's talk about just the mazik, right? Ben nezik and ben lebalchov. Porei lefi das of the mazik.
Yeah.
And not the das of the collector. The collector here is the nizak. He's trying to collect his money back. Now it works out good, right?
No, because, I mean, it doesn't seem to work out with what we've learned so far about the Balchov according to the Rosh.
Oh, except the Balchov is no good. Exactly. It's a contradiction to the Balchov.
And when he says V'sham lifnei zeh kasas Rosh, he's saying that there's a halacha that was written before, which we didn't look at. Right?
No, we didn't look at the whole rush.
Because we were relying on the Beit Yosef's quotation of the Rosh. So he's saying here that before the Rosh deals with Nezikin, he talks about the Balchov, right? Is that what he's saying here?
Yeah, so let's go back. We're going to have to go back and look. Maybe let's just look quickly at the Rush at least, okay? Let's go back to the Rush. And
well, we never had that Rosh.
No, I never read the beginning of the Rush. Let me see if I even have that. Did I do that? No, maybe we should just hold off on it and I'll do the preparation work better. The Rush. No, I didn't do that because I didn't have the Rush. No, I didn't have the Rush. I had the Riff. I wanted to have the text of the Rush. So maybe we'll we'll hold off on it and we'll do it, but it's very important, okay? So we have to do the Drisha, and then we have to do, next time, Bezat Hashem, we'll do the Drisha, and the Lavush is very important too, Lavush Machai, and then we're ready for the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so we have our work cut out.
Great.
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
Okay, slowly we're coming closer to the present day, but this is what the whole idea in this exercise is to understand what the learning process is, and what the people are doing and how they're doing it. Okay.
I don't know if I'm excited about coming to the end or dreading the end.
No, it gets more. So it gets more and more exciting. You know what I mean? It just because
no, I'm saying. No, I'm saying.
Oh, you don't want it to.
I dread that.
Oh,
exactly.
no, yeah, exactly. No, because we'll do another piece. I don't know what we'll do. But anyway, here the important point is to see the process. You see, once you see the process, and then you're aware of what learning is about. You see, you understand. Then a lot of times people only see one little piece. They only learn the Gemara. They only learn the Daf Yomi. They never look at the Rishonim. I mean, you know what I mean? They never get down. The Shulchan Aruch is a different world. You know, when you're in Kollel, you learn Shulchan Aruch. You know what I mean? So chaval that people don't see the complete structure and what goes on in the whole process, the whole learning process, because it's all one unit. No one's talking about anything that except the Gemara. That's the beauty of it. They're all talking about the same information. The question is how to mold that information. What does it mean? You see, they're arguing about what is the meaning of the information. But once you see the information, that's what, it's the same text. So it's a question of how they're using it. Okay, so Baruch Hashem. We'll stop here. It's a good place to stop, and I'll do more work on this Trisha and Prisha, and Bezat Hashem next time we'll be able to finish the tour. And again, we're only doing what's on the page. I mean, we're not doing, I mean, there's books and books and books on these things, but we're not going to, go further pages to see what's going on. And then Bezat Hashem will go into the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, and then we have a few more 100 years to go until we get down to. To our present day, Bezat Hashem. Okay, have a great one, and have a good trip. So, when will we get together again? Oh, well, you'll tell me. Give me. Tell me what's good. Just give me an email. Yeah, it depends what you're doing and what exactly what's happening in the world. So just send me an email and we'll play it by ear.
Let's say, just because the only problem is I don't know how accessible email will be to me. So let's say just as a default position that we won't learn Wednesday, but if I can, I'll definitely will email you.
Exactly. Very good. Because if you do have email, then you'll be able to contact with me, and if you don't, so I won't. So I'll try to bring you around, and if you send me an email, then we'll get together.
Okay, great.
Okay. Have a great vacation.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Okay, good.